Walk-up songs. You are listening to The Competitor's Brain. This is episode number 25, and I am Lauren Fox. So we talked about listening to podcasts, which I probably have a problem where I listen to way too many of them. And one guy that I really love is a guy who wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. His name's Tim Ferriss, but very fascinating dude, very bright guy, probably one of the best interviewers that I've ever heard. And he interviewed a gentleman named Josh Waitzkin. And Josh Waitzkin, and we'll get to this in a little bit, and I keep promising this about things, but Josh Waitzkin, when he was a kid, was a chess prodigy. They actually made a movie about him called Searching for Bobby Fischer. And but he got burned out on chess. It became too much pressure. He didn't want to do that. It became not fun anymore. And subsequently, he has become a world champion in a variety of other disciplines, things like Tai Chi push hands, which I don't even know what that is, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but and e-foiling. So the surfing where you're basically above the wave on an e-foil, but a very interesting dude. But one thing that Josh Waitzkin has figured out is how to compete. And as part of that, the conversation of figuring out how to compete, Josh Waitzkin has also figured out how to find peak performance. So when you guys are finding a walk-up song, it's really tempting to look at something and say, this is cool and this is what everybody's listening to right now. But what I want you to think about is triggers. What can you use to get yourself to that point of peak performance and get yourself locked in on whatever the at-bat is? And so Josh Waitzkin, when he was in a martial arts championship in 2000, he, as part of his training, would listen to Lose Yourself by Eminem. And I did the same thing training for a marathon, where I would listen to that. And my part of the story would be that when I got into a rough point late in the marathon and wasn't ever considering stopping, but just felt like absolute hot garbage. What I did at that point was I had about 4 Eminem songs that I would put on loop and get myself through the hard part. And one of those songs was Lose Yourself, because it was like this immediate, I'm hyped up, I need to push through. And Josh Waitzkin says trigger work would be essentially using something like a song, like Lose Yourself, the Eminem song. One thing he started doing decades ago was getting himself into a peak performance state and then attaching a trigger to it like a song or a scent, so that ultimately he could, as he was doing a 30 or 40 minute routine, be able to listen to a couple of beats or a song or smell something or take a breath and enter into a peak performance state. He actually used that in a world championship where he only found out that he was competing about 1 minute before he competed, listened to the song, and got himself right back into where he needed to be. He had listened to it before every fight of his world championship in 2004, and then all of a sudden, he just needed to get there, and the song got him there. The only weird thing is when you hear a song like that, after you're done competing, it'll occasionally take you back to that state, and sometimes your brain just isn't ready for it. But even now, if I hear certain songs by Eminem, I get like all of a sudden my brain just starts going haywire to some degree. And I get into a competitive mode that I kind of have to back myself off of. Josh Waitzkin was the same way, although what he's done has far exceeded anything that I have. But one thing that I would encourage you to do as you are setting your walk-up song is figure out what's going to get you in that 10 seconds to a point that when you step into the batter's box, you are as ready as you can be to go and do damage against the pitcher.